Hello everyone, thanks for tuning in to today's second video. We're looking at the ECMWF extended model for today's second video. So we're going to go 6 weeks out for 2 days ahead. With the EC extended, it will take us more or less to the end of November, and we'll have a look and see what what the EC extended model is saying right way to the end of, or more or less the end of meteorological autumn 2021. So I should get to that for you in a second. Just say that the first video release today was our 7 AM forecast. We've also got the week ahead forecast coming up for you shortly, of course, as well as on Saturday. Got your weekend look at, and there's going to be a 10 to 14 there with all of the reg features as well. So please like, share, subscribe. Thank you so much, everybody, for doing that. Right, just say that this one focuses on the UK and Ireland. We do the wider European outlook using the EC extended on a Tuesday. Right, okay, let's crack on then. So we're going to start off with the week 1 mean sea level pressure anomaly. This will be for next week and take us from the 18th through 25th of October. So next week looks unsettled with low pressure in from the Atlantic into northern and western Europe. High pressure is across southern Europe, so a classic sort of zonal setup, bringing in quite a strong westerly wind from off the Atlantic with low pressure driving in, bringing plenty of spells of rain. The 500 millibar height anomaly looks like that. Again, very unsettled, lots of low pressure to the north. High pressure will be to the south, and again we'll be bringing in the winds from off the Atlantic in that sort of westerly zonal type fashion. So temperature anomaly next week is going to be milder than average. We're not alone. Most of northern and west Europe is milder than average as well, but Scandinavia is a bit colder. But generally, yes, we are looking on the milder than average side next week. But also with all that low pressure coming in off the Atlantic, wetter than average too. So quite a wet and mild week coming up next week from the 18th to 25th of October. Right, week 2 will be the 25th of October to the 1st of November. Still looks unsettled for the last week of October. Lots of low pressure coming in off the Atlantic. Once again, the high pressure is weakening a little bit across southern parts of Europe, so maybe shifting the jet stream a little bit further southwards. Could mean that the temperature goes a little bit cooler, but the main thing is that really it is another unsettled, wet Atlantic-driven week. The 500 millibar height anomaly continues to look unsettled with, again, below average heights, low pressure in off the Atlantic. Higher pressure is down there across southern parts of Europe. The temperature anomaly comes out above average for the UK and for Ireland as well. Actually, let's just put on the temperature scale. There we go. Comes out above average at around 0 to 3 degrees above normal. So yes, it's another mild week to end October. And again, heading myself. And precipitation-wise, again, all that low pressure driving in off the Atlantic. It's another wet week coming up with, again, above average rainfall. Okay, let's go through the week 3. This will be the 1st through to the 8th of November. So another pretty unsettled week, really. Below average pressure, low pressure in the North Atlantic. Not as extensively so as what we saw there for weeks 1 and 2. But nevertheless, it's still a bit wet average. High pressure is, or wet average signal, low pressure signal. High pressure is shifting more over towards the eastern side of Europe. So presumably it's taking up some warm air into the east and southeast Europe. But at the same time, probably rather flat and westerly Atlantic driven in the western side of Europe. The 500 millibar height anomaly is looking like this. So probably still rather westerly, but I think the jet stream is tending to come southwards with this. A high pressure over on the eastern side of the Mediterranean into East Europe will draw up like a southerly wind. So it's going to be turning cooler into the west of Europe as the high pressure again pulls out to middle of the Atlantic. So probably still Atlantic driven, but I would have thought, playing a little bit cooler. Temperature anomaly is slightly above average. That's not quite as warm as it is in weeks 1 and 2, but still nevertheless on the above average side there. First week of November. Still hinting at being a little bit wetter than average too, but it's not as wet as it is like for weeks 1 and 2. So generally still a bit unsettled, not as mild as going into first week of November. Week 4 will be the 8th to the 15th of November. Very, very weak signals by this point. So I'm just going to put in, for mean cell pressure anyway, I'm just going to put in a couple of question marks. There. We have got a little bit of low pressure around Spain and some France. That might imply the jet stream is starting to head southwards. Let's have a look at the 500 millibar height anomaly. Again, it all looks a little bit mysterious, this, doesn't it? So we've definitely got some higher pressure over on the eastern side of Europe. We've got high pressure pulled out into the middle of the Atlantic. And we're sort of sending a jet stream a little bit further southwards there, I think. Let's see what temperature anomaly is doing for week 4. So it still hints of being a bit above average, but week by week it is getting less so. So now we're sort of back to average or have no signal, basically, in those white colours. And the warmer temperatures look like they're being shoved off more towards the eastern side of Europe. Having said that, there's no signal for it to be particularly cold, it must be said. And the week 4 precipitation anomaly, really weak signals, but maybe hints at being a little bit on the wetter side through some parts of England. And down across southern France, for example, northern Spain, could be a little bit wetter through there. Okay, let's have a look at week 5. Because the further out we go, the more unreliable it's getting, and the weaker the signals are going to get as well. Week 5 will take us from the 15th to 22nd of November. Again, another rather mysterious looking week. There is a little bit of a mid-Atlantic ridge, some higher pressure pulled back into the Atlantic. Got some higher pressure building across the far northwest of Russia. But otherwise, again, I'm just going to put in some question marks because it's not clear what sort of weather pattern is dominating across northern and western Europe there. The 500 millibar height anomaly definitely raising the heights to the east and to the northeast, so that's interesting, but nowhere near us, to bring easterly winds. High pressure out in the Atlantic again. Again, I'll just put in a question mark. What is going on there? I suspect between the two ridges, if we got the ridge here, and then a ridge there's got to be some low pressure somewhere, hasn't there? So I suspect this area probably fills up in the end with an area of low pressure, and it's quite unsettled. But that'll just be my guess with that. Temperature anomaly is around to a little bit above average for either the UK. It's a very mild update from the EC extended, it has to be said. And the precipitation anomaly looks like that. So again, such a weak signal, but you can't really draw any sort of anything useful, really. It's too weak to be able to say what's going on there. There is a signal to be dry of an average in the middle of the North Atlantic, so it does look pretty dry there. Right, week 6 is going to be the 22nd to 29th of November. This is how it's looking. And again, it's making me my keep, this one, isn't it? No signal at all, really. Across Europe. Very, very, very weak signals. Let's see. 500 millibar height anomaly sheds any light. So there's definitely like signal for higher pressure across the east of Europe. So higher pressure across the east of Europe, probably bringing up like a warmish or a mild southerly wind from the east side of Europe. What's going on in the west of Europe? From like the second week of February onwards is very mysterious. Second week of November, I should say, onwards. Really, really mysterious, and maybe like a bit of a hint of some higher latitude blocking getting going. So I don't know if the ECMWF has got much of an idea about what's going on here, to be honest. No real signal for the temperature anomaly in the last week of November, and no signal really for precipitation. Though it does look a little bit drier, I suppose, around the North Atlantic. Let's say there seems to be a little bit drier through the North Atlantic. But again, really, the signal is so weak that you can't draw any useful sort of information from that. Right, so a really mysterious update, from the EC extended this week, once we get from around the first week of November. So until the first week of November, it's all quite plain sailing. The rest of October looks very unsettled, wet, windy, and pretty mild. And that probably goes on into the first week of November, but a little bit reduced, not as warm, but also not as wet. So maybe a bit of a transition, something a bit drier and cooler in the first week of November. And then what happens after that, weeks 4, 5, and 6, very, very, very mysterious, I have to say, with this update. We may find that we go into something a little bit drier and colder with this, I reckon. Read between the lines, read between the lines. I mean, we might see a little bit of a cool down going on during November, and we might go a little bit drier and a little bit colder, especially if we start to raise the heights within the northern latitudes. There's 1 or 2 hints there, but we might be doing that, especially around the middle and second half of November. But, before we get carried away with that idea, it could go the other way and just end up as like a very wet and also really mild month as well, because the signals are so weak there from like the second week of November onwards that I don't think the model has much of a direction of travel for where things are going to go. So, we'll wait and see. When it's like this, very mysterious, that's interesting in its own terms, because it tells you that the model is struggling, to identify the pattern, especially the more extended range. So, that in its own terms is an interesting sort of development, I think. Right, okay, so that's it then for this week's EC Extended. So I'm going to be back shortly with weekend forecast. Fortunately, the signals are much clearer for the coming week. So weekend forecast coming up for you next, and then have a 10 to 14 dayer that will include all of the regular features, so come back for that as well. For this week's ECMWF Extended Look at That's all for now, and thanks for watching.